Look, so here's why I keep nitpicking with Bama, though, because you guys have done 2 or 3 of these shows with me in the past few weeks.
Yeah.
So I've thrown overreactions at you, and I think we've talked Alabama every single week. And I think up until now, you guys rightfully have shut me down every time I tease anything. Like, is there something wrong here? But like, at what point are we going to acknowledge this team is actually susceptible to this happening again? And I get Tennessee's the best team this team is going to play this year. That's for sure. But we better be real thankful. Nick Saban better be real thankful that they snuck by Texas and that they snuck by Texas A&M, because otherwise they're already out of the playoff at that point. If one play goes wrong in one of those 2 games, right?
He likes that. The A&M in the Texas game, he likes that. Those are games in the 20s. He can live with that. He likes it because he knows one play, my guys are good for a play. But if we got to do 75, 85 plays, and we got to put the pressure on them, again, we mentioned Treadwell, we mentioned Evans, we mentioned Alshon Jeffrey, we mentioned these guys, right? What Deshaun Watson and Mike Williams and Clemson was able to do. We mentioned all this stuff. That's the part that scares him. Because in the A&M game, in the Texas game, he didn't have to respond. He had to hold water. Max, tell me what you think. Like that's what I think. He likes that.
Yeah, he loves the low scoring games because one play can change your fortunes.
And he has that one play.
And he'll dial it up. Just like the Bryce Young shimmy in Texas, right?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like they'll pull out that one play that changes the complexion. Yeah.
The Clemson game where he was gonna he knew he couldn't give Deshaun Watson the ball back, so he had an onside kick dialed up to make sure that Deshaun Watson didn't get the football back. Because he's like, we can't stop him.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what was indicative of this one. You say, okay, what are the tenets on what Alabama needs to do to win this game? Rush the football, possess longer than the other team, and then put points on the board. They did all 3 of those things, and they still lost.
Bingo.
And they didn't, and it wasn't like 31-29. They held the ball for 37 minutes. 37.
It was 49-49.
I'm like, they told you have to score better than 50 points to beat Tennessee. If they would have told him that, he would have been like, you're absolutely crazy.
Yes.
And then what happened? You had to score more than 52 points to beat Tennessee, and you did not want Hendon Hooker getting the ball back, and he got the ball back, and they took it down the field and kicked the field goal to win it. It was just that for as advanced as and evolved as Nick Saban is, he does not like 40-point games.
He doesn't like it.
Unless he's handing out a check to
He can do it, but he doesn't like it.
He doesn't like it. Yeah, he's going to do it, and you've got the athletes that can turn it on when you need to. But when you know you have to, not want to, have to do it, that's when you see Nick Saban start to get a little frazzled.
He squirms.
He squirms. He's irritable on the sidelines more than normal. And it's nerve-wracking because you know that one play can change the whole fortunes of them getting over the hump.
So does that say just so much about Tennessee then, though, that it was – because this essentially what you guys are telling me, this game was played on Tennessee's terms, right?
Yes.
And there's not many teams in the country who can make Alabama play on their terms. Tennessee did that, and Alabama helped them do that with all the penalties, and I think that's a lingering problem. I don't know that that's necessarily going to – it's not going to be that bad, but I think that's something that could come back to bite them. But the other thing that struck me that falls in line with saying Tennessee made them play on their terms, watching this game just from an eye test, I can't remember a time really in the last 10 years under Saban where I felt like the other team athletically and speed-wise and strength-wise was holding their own with Bama. And look, Bryce Young was knocked on the ground a ton in this game. I don't remember an Alabama quarterback being touched the way that the Tennessee pass rush got there. Is that wrong, Felder?
Come on. I mean, we watched the Clemson game that was 44-16, right?
Yeah. Okay, so once, I mean,
but hang on, but a game where Dabo Swinney not only like he stunted on them, like where he called the same play that Alabama called, and they scored a touchdown on it when they shut down Alabama. Like that was the one of the biggest flexes in college football history. Like the shovel pass, like he's like, oh, we'll run this too, and just so you know, we'll score, and we've already shut you down on this. But there's that. There's also, I mean, the games against LSU. Say what?
Georgia game last year.
Georgia game, yes. The Georgia National Championship game.
Yeah, the national championship game. Yeah.
They punched them.
So not to interrupt, but those two teams though were title teams that you would point to and say that's the best.
What a segue, my man.
But I guess because that's sort of what I'm picking at here, right? Is if our conclusion from this game is just Tennessee is that good, I can buy it. If our conclusion from this game is no, Tennessee is like the fourth best team in the country, and they just did that to Alabama, that says something about where the Saban era as it is ends, right? Because the only teams who have done this are the best team in the country the 3 times under Saban that it hasn't been in Alabama. So that's where I'm lost on Tennessee is
Max,
Tennessee that good?
You go.
Yeah.
You want me to go?
So
you go.
Think about this. We've had multiple times throughout Saban's history where he did not make the CFP, right?
Yes.
So there's obviously had to have been teams that came in and showed their mettle to make sure you knew that they were good. And we talked about those Ole Miss teams that came in, the
Bingo.
Auburn teams that came in,
Nick Marshall,
and shocked the world. Yep. This is where we're at. I think this is when you're talking about if I find a crack, you got to take it and you got to get going. Tennessee found that crack in this team because this team, although battered from last year, they think they're better than they are. They think they can still show up and show out and not be disciplined. And Saban's just sitting there like, okay.
You got to learn your lesson.
You got to learn your lesson. I've got plenty of titles. Y'all don't. So he will sit through and he will wait this out for this year. If it means they're not in it this year, guess what? He's now got his rallying cry to his boosters to get more money.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? So Nick Saban is always thinking about how this is going to affect. He's playing chess when everybody else is playing checkers. Everybody's trying to get the immediate win and fix. He's like, no, I need to set this up for the next 10 years because we were starting to lose a little bit in NIL. So I don't mind this being as bad as it is. And especially with there's pieces I don't like. Guess what? Woo! Transfer portal. Go ahead. Go ahead. I got plenty of kids that want to come here. So I don't care about a year. I want a dynasty. And so for us, it's like when you get that crack, you got to take it, whatever school you are. If you're Georgia, if you're Tennessee, or you're Ohio State or Michigan, this is that year where you're like, okay, it's a free-for-all.